past few years, it's been really obvious to me that a lot of people in their 20s have not shed their teenage anxiety. They still have it all these years later. As a teenager, when a lot of experiences are new and you don't know what to expect, it's definitely normal to have anxiety. But as people get older and into their 20s, they should absolutely lose that anxiety because these things that once caused them to be anxious should be normal to them. But unfortunately, that's not the case. In this video, I'm going to talk about why adults in their 20s have such bad anxiety and what I think can be done to fix it. So first, I'm going to talk about why people in their 20s still have teenage anxiety. Obviously, lockdowns played a huge part in this. At a time where young people were supposed to be going out and having new experiences and changing their lives, instead they were stunted, sitting at home, not having any new experiences. It's not possible to shed the anxiety around new experiences and things you don't know about if you don't get to go out in the world and experience those things and realize that it's not that big of a deal. In addition, a lot of kids really did not have a good example set for them by their parents. First, a lot of kids just flat out were not allowed to go outside. Just no matter what, their parents would not let them do anything. Oh, you gotta do homework, this, that, the other. There was always an excuse parents had for why they didn't want their kids to have a social life. And what makes it even worse is a lot of kids actually grew up with parents who didn't have any friends at all. As someone who had parents who had a social life, as someone who had family friends, was always around different people, whether it was people my age or adults in the area, I didn't really realize until recently that there are a lot of people currently in their 20s who, growing up, they didn't have family friends. They didn't have get-togethers, whether that was on the weekend or for a holiday or whatever. They just sat around and did nothing. Unfortunately, a decent amount of people currently in their 20s had parents who just didn't want friends and did not want to socialize. And what in some ways might be even worse is there were kids who did have parents with social lives, but after whatever social interaction they had, they would go home with their parents, and the only thing they would hear is their parents nonstop complaining about the people they just spent time with. Unfortunately, these factors had a very negative impact on the development of some people. And of course, social media does not help at all. Social media has caused people to overthink in the worst ways. People are paying attention to stuff that just doesn't matter and are totally terrified that people are just going to verbally crucify them for nothing. In addition, both on the internet and in real life, there's a lot of adults right now who are totally uncomfortable all the time, and they don't seem to understand that it's a them problem. They continue to blame it on everyone else. Fully grown adults should not be uncomfortable 24/7. But unfortunately, the internet is full of adults who are uncomfortable, always think everything's weird and scary, and they're always making it everyone else's problem. The combo of young people being modeled antisocial behavior by adults, and then on top of that, being on the internet, being overstimulated, overthinking, and constantly seeing petty complaints from uncomfortable people, it's really been a bad combo, and it's led to a lot of fully grown adults being anxious. When you combine those factors with what lockdowns did, how it killed social life, how people just aren't going out and socializing consistently anymore, this has led to a lot of people in their 20s having serious anxiety problems. And the worst part about this is, unfortunately, nowadays, it's considered socially acceptable for adults to be anxious, to be uncomfortable, to think everything's weird, to think everything's scary. That's just considered normal now for some reason. Young people are not socializing with each other, and they're constantly getting negative feedback from adults, both in person and on the internet. And truly, one of the worst parts is that parents will see that their kid is anxious, and instead of trying to do something about it, they'll actually lean into it. They know that if their kid is anxious, they're less likely to go outside, socialize with other people, so they'll be more likely to stay at the house. These parents want their kids to stay at the house. They don't want them to go out in the world and have a good social life. These parents who have kids in their 20s who are anxious sitting around the house all day, they want that. They love the control. For some of these parents, the most terrifying thing to them would be their child grows up and is confident and goes out in the world and lives their own life, so then they don't get to see their child every day. Which I have to say, the most bizarre part about that is that it's 2026. You can FaceTime people whenever you want, and you can always just hop on an airplane and you can get wherever you want to go really fast. So no one's really that far away anymore. Yet these parents are terrified of their kid going out into the world and actually doing something. The fact these parents want their kids to be anxious, combined with these kids constantly using social media, which causes them to overthink, it's a really bad combo, and it has me deeply concerned that these people are going to go their entire lives being an anxious wreck. But with all of that being said, I do think there are several solutions that could really help people immediately. The first one is obvious, and it's something I'm going to be saying all the time on this channel. Putting down the phone and putting down social media makes a huge difference. And ideally, replacing that internet interaction with in-person interaction would be the ideal scenario. But even just putting the phone down and going on a walk for an extended period of time, that would make people feel a lot better. So many people are on the internet all day, doom and gloom, the sky is falling, I'm terrified. The fact of the matter is, if you put your phone down, go outside, go on a walk, you see that everything's still pretty much the same. Really not that much has changed. And I think it's really unfortunate that people who live in first world countries are constantly in this doom and gloom. It'd be a whole lot better if people were outside touching grass in nature, thinking positive thoughts instead of in their head about social media. I also think that setting goals and working towards them absolutely helps with getting rid of anxiety. In particular, because working towards a goal and ultimately achieving a goal, first, that gives people confidence, right? It gives them confidence, makes them happy, puts a smile on their face, and just having those natural feelings immediately relieves a lot of this anxiety. And the final solution, whether it's in person or on the internet, people have to remove negative people from their life. People who are doom and gloom, people who are gossiping in a disrespectful way. It's just better to not have those people around. And unfortunately, I think in particular, the internet has led young people to think that everyone is super judgmental, always worrying about these petty little details. No matter what, they're just going to complain. But that's really not the case. There's still plenty of positive people out there. There's still people who want friends. There's still people who enjoy social activities. And just eliminating the negative people first just helps so much in getting rid of the anxiety that comes with going to social interactions. And of course, like I said, people in their 20s should not be scared of going to a party, going to some sort of fancy event. That just shouldn't be happening. But unfortunately, it is. And I really think that just cutting the negativity out can really help with getting people to just go do simple stuff and be excited for it instead of overthinking about it. It's really unfortunate that so many young people are so anxious, but I really do think there are very simple steps that can be taken for people to immediately get rid of the majority of their anxiety. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. I will see you all next time.